Barbara Hayward here from the Old Girl Spiritual Stuff Facebook page, the Old Girl Spiritual Stuff YouTube channel, and the Old Girl Spiritualstuff.com. Welcome to all of you out there today. And I know I say this about everybody, and every time I say it, it's true. It's absolutely true. Today, I'm introducing you to a most amazing lady who has one of the sassiest, peaceful, gorgeous spiritual energy I've met for a long time, and she really is very sassy, and that's part of what I love about her. She's from Canada at Ontario in Canada, in Peterborough. Now I've got that right. I was a bit frightened to say exactly where she was living in case I got it wrong. And Christianna Carr is her name. Now, Christianna, I've known for a wee while now, and I do talk to her privately as well as the different pages that we're on as well on Facebook. I'm really intrigued in many levels about Christianna. She highly spiritual, highly spiritual. She just not knows the philosophy, but she lives the philosophy. And out there, you would all know, and you would have heard me say, being a good clairvoyant and a good healer doesn't make you a good spiritual person. It just makes you proficient at the gifts. However, Christianna lives her philosophy. She is her philosophy through and through. And it is with great admiration I'm able to say that. Now, the area that I'd like to talk to you today, Christianna, is an area that we've not touched before, and that's about journals, writing journals and writing your thoughts in. This is something that I wished I could do, but it's not in my DNA and it's not in my characteristic to do this. But out of that is an area that I'd like to talk to her about today, which is her poetry. And this is so heartfelt. It's so from the soul, and it's so easy to understand her writing. So with that, welcome, Christianna, and thank you so much for joining me here and our greater audience out there. And thank you for coming. And before we start, I will say, if you could please subscribe, please like, and please comment. And definitely if you could like this, because all to do with analytics in the background, I have no idea what all that's about. I'm too friggin' old to figure it out. But apparently we need all that. So if you could do that for us, that would be amazing. So that's the housework. And now back to you, Christianna. How did you get into this? I don't think you got into it. I think you were born into it. You've been doing spiritual visions and stuff like that, I think, all your life.
Pretty much, as for as long as I can remember. Yeah. Hello, everybody. Thank you for that introduction, Barb. I really appreciate that. That's like, wow, very powerful. But yeah, pretty much my whole life. Like, I remember having a dream about my mother burning up in a fire, and then my mother got a call that the house had burnt down, and I was about 5 years old. So, and then the first time I saw like an apparition, I was still young, probably around 10 years old. And my brothers and I actually thought it was Santa Claus at Christmas Eve. My parents must have just gone to bed, and we were sneaking out of our rooms, which was right beside each other, and our parents' room was across the hall. And we came out, and there was this tall, slender man. Well, he was tall to us when we were kids, and there was a silver line all around him. And he just turned to us and put his finger up to his lips and went shh, and we just looked at each other, went back into our rooms. And the next day we started talking. Santa's not fat and jolly, and he didn't have a great big white beard. But it turns out, I think it was my mother's father that had kind of followed us around. She'd heard him at another place, and there was lots of things that kind of happened around then. But he died 2 years before I was born. So I always took comfort in the fact that even though I didn't get to meet him, he's still watching over me.
And
Yes.
so you, as children, it's very natural. And
Yes.
as children normally grow older, um, they start to forget. And I was taught many years ago, many decades ago, that as we're born, the angel of forgetfulness touches here, which is becomes our third eye, touches here so we can forget all the past lives and everything, so we can live purely in this one. But of course, it takes a lot longer for children to move out of that mist of remembering into forgetfulness. And not every child does move into forgetfulness. Um, so, so you've got an amazing um, life now. You you've got a few. Tell us about the 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 YouTube and not yet. Tell us about your Facebook pages, but one of them. Please tell us about your TikTok. It's just the way you say it.
The tickety tockety.
That's it. Your tickety tockety. Isn't that just the most adorable? And this is her sassiness. Can I tell you? This is absolutely her sassiness. What do you do on those in those areas? You've got a couple of really definite directions.
Yes, well, and it's basically it's all the same video. I started in 2018 on the YouTube with my Begin Within guidance with Wingish Nibe Majeki Kwe. That's my spirit name in Ojibwe because I'm here in Ojibwe territory, not because I am Ojibwe. But it's called Sweetgrass Water Medicine Woman is my spirit name. So I started that in 2018 when I moved into my Begin Within home, I call it, and that's where I wanted to build my shop and everything. I prayed, and this was like manifestation. It was divinely brought to me, or I was divinely brought here, and then was hit with a dirty custody scandal. So I started that as part of my healing. I did some cards, and then it was about in 2023, I got a new deck of cards called Self Care. So I shortened my videos down, and I started calling them the Daily Crumb, and I made another YouTube channel. I just call it Crumbs, a Begin Within journey. And then on the Tickety Tockety, it's called At the Daily Crumb. You know, that's how my little handle on there, At the Daily Crumb on the Tickety Tockety. And it's just a video for self-care, and I try to keep them like 10 minutes. They're kind of creeping up to 15 now. When I first started, I could talk for like an hour and put the cards in there, and there's crying and there's lots. I just show up. I'm raw and real. I don't edit except for on the tickety tockety. I do a little heart. I draw a little heart and I send my love out to everybody. And I found some really cool edits on there. So I really love putting those in there. Today I actually gapped it, but it's just about that self-care. And I also use medicine cards and soul path cards by Jamie Sams. Um, and once like your totem animals and the sacred path cards are just like life lessons that we'll grow through. And I like to say grow through. We don't go through things, we grow through them. And so I
Well,
give
absolutely.
right. We take a self-care card, which will give it gives a quote and then an idea for a self-care activity. And then I draw a sacred path and a totem animal that goes along with us on that. And you learn the lessons and the medicines from that animal. You can go deeper with them by looking up that animal and you know learning about what that animal does and how that animal lives. But I just kind of give you just the basics about it and how like eagle flies closest to spirit. So the word on this eagle card is spirit. So then spirit is always with us. And through my daily crumb, I like to tell everybody that spirit's always got our back because that's all we give that. It's time to
Yeah.
turn around and open up, let it pour into and pour through you.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And when did you start? And I this is an area that fascinates me. I was talking to a very dear friend yesterday who phoned me from Australia, and she's actually my spiritual mentor, and she just pops in every 12 months or so. And she was saying that she's begun journaling again. And so the energy has shifted that allows that. But you've been journaling a very long time, haven't you?
Yes,
And
yes,
why?
years.
And why is the question.
Well, I've heard that it was really healing. And since I was a child, I learned it in adolescence. So I've got it. I've even got one from when I was like 13. It's just a little one with a little lock and key on there. And like, if anybody reads this, I'm going to rip off your heads. Because my younger brothers would get into it. My little cousins would get in and they'd be reading my stories and stuff. And I've had boyfriends use them against me, but I have been journaling quite regularly. Oh, quiet now, girl. That's my doggy. Excuse me.
Every time you do a video, one of the things that you may see, I will tell you, I have informed my husband I'm working, like doing this video. And so he goes outside to potter outside in doing outside stuff. And the other day I was doing a video and he's walking down there.
I saw him.
It was so funny. And so if you see him, that is my husband. He's been finished to the outside. So yes, I understand dogs, husbands, children, and lollipops.
Right?
Please,
Yes.
please.
Well, that's the dog, and then the cat's in heat too. So you might hear her whining and trying to crawl up and rub up around everything here too. So
Is,
and where was
it is
I?
authentic. Our videos our interviews are truly authentic, and what occurs is what occurs, and that's just the way life happens, isn't it?
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Right. And the journaling. Yes. So I've done the journaling. I didn't do it so regularly as a kid is when I thought about it, or but I've tried to keep it up regularly, and I love looking back at them, and because people would read them, I'd start trying to write to myself in code. So now when I look back, and I would write things like, I'm talking about this, and if I know what I mean, which I'm sure I do, and I'm like, I have no idea what I meant.
Like the old
and I started,
shorthand. You don't need
yes, right.
shorthand and going, what the hell?
Yeah, I have no idea what I was talking about. I could have left some more clues for me, but I don't know. And sometimes I use it as a way. Some people will burn their writings and things like that. I look at it and I'll read back as if it was somebody else.
Yeah.
And what would I say to that person? So sometimes when it was tough stuff, growing through tough stuff, I would do that. And then lots of times poetry just comes out of me. And sometimes I started making different notebooks that would be poetry, or notebooks for my daily journaling, or notebooks for ideas. I got notebooks all over the place. So I've got one that I just started in May. This one, it was something from 2022 I put in there, and then I started using it again just this year in May, since May 2nd. So we're not even done May, and I've already filled that up. And sometimes I like to write in all different colors. So there's pink and purple in there. And I started doing handwriting. Sometimes it's handwriting, sometimes it's printing. And yeah, there's just lots that comes out of it. And one of them was a book with 21 of my poems. 21 of my poems in that book that just came out in 2022.
Wow.
I think.
So is it possible to possibly read one to us?
Absolutely. Absolutely. 21
Okay.
poems. Between 1 and 21. Which one would you read?
How many pages are in your book? Not how many poems, how many pages?
46 pages.
Okay, I'd like you to go to 33.
33. 33. Perfect. It's the start of a poem.
Well, and had enough. Okie dokie. Amazing.
Enough. Now this is
what
going
number
through
poem is it? What number poem is it?
Number 15.
15,
it's
so
number
it's a 6. It's a 1 and a 5 is a 6. Okay.
And so is 33. Wait, you know how to pick them. There we go. Oh. So just to give a little background, when I say the healing things I've been dragged through, the dirty custody scandals, there's been lots of still abuse going on still now, financial abuse and all that. I'm trying to do things to save my home and things like that because it's a rent to own, but I still keep growing. So I'm growing through this stuff and I'm having faith in spirit, but dealing with the narcissists and all that, this is where this had come from. Had enough. I've had enough. Enough of all your lies and the tears I cried, all the times I've tried. It's time I said goodbye. I've had enough. Enough of all the things you said and did that pulled me in, made me feel bad for the tough life you had. I've had enough. Enough of all the games being played, of taking all the blame and shame, left feeling worthless and lame. I've had enough. Enough of acting tough when I'm drowning in so much emotional stuff, barely able to take a breath before comes another wave. I've had enough. Oh, I don't know how, barely able to take another breath before another wave. I've had enough, enough of feeling empty, giving it all I got, only to be betrayed, stabbed in the back and tossed, left alone and lost in the dark with a broken heart. So much shit to transmute. God, where do I start? I've had enough. I am so empty. I am ready to receive, open to being filled up from all the love within and above that I know I got. I am enough, and you are too. I am here to remember. As I do, I also remind you. And then I stamped this one, Hugs. Hugs is hip, universal, gypsy soul. That's my little artist stamp.
You
Hip,
know what?
universal, gypsy soul.
So many people are going to be able to relate to that poem, those emotions and those feelings, because it's very
Yeah.
universal. Your poetry
Yeah.
is very universal. It's not um conditional specific. It doesn't just relate to one thing. And so many people can read their story, certainly into that one. I In my divorce, and as much as it was tacky and all sorts of things, it wasn't as bad as it could have been. And however, I could still relate. And
Yeah.
and I just
Yeah.
love the way you've finished it, that you could be talking when you said, I am enough and so are you could be talking to your ex-partner, or you could be talking to the audience. I
Yes.
really
Yeah.
love that diversity in there. That was
Yeah.
just beautiful. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
So,
you. Thank you.
how has journaling been able to help you go through your time to grow times, your pain into growth?
Oh, well, it's helped a lot, especially in those narcissistic relationships and in with those gaslighting and things like that. Because then I can write down what I'm feeling, or if there's an incident and I wanted to remember that, I could write down that incident and what was said. And then I could look back and see, okay, I wasn't just crazy or in my head. This actually did happen. I wrote it down, it's time stamped and whatever. There is some evidence about what I thought, what I felt when they said this kind of stuff didn't happen or whatever it was. And and just getting it out, because I say it's better out than in.
Yep.
So if there
Yep.
isn't anybody to talk, it's just like therapy. It isn't them giving you advice. It's more of you hearing your own self. And once it gets out in the air, because I learned in school, 95% of healing happens just in having your story heard and witnessed without judgment. So just having somebody hold that safe space, it already starts that healing, and 95% of it. So that's a long way. It's because it's when we just hold that in there, that's when it does the most damage to us, because we're holding that in and it needs to be released. So it
In
helps
your
me to
journal,
release.
in your journaling
Yeah.
and other people's journaling as well, you're part of that witness. You're
Yes.
part of the witnessing of something that happened here, and now you're witnessing as truth and a validation here. So it's not
Yes.
just other people witnessing and validating you, it's you then being
Yeah.
able to go back and doing it for yourself,
Yes.
which
Yes.
is
Which is so important.
incredibly important.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Incredibly important. And so
Yes.
the other thing that I believe to be true in your journals is your spiritual growth, how you've grown spiritually, how what philosophies you've come upon, and how you've assimilated that into your life, and how that's expanded you. Would that be a truth?
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, because sometimes like looking back and reading through those poems, like, wow, I didn't know that that came out of me. I got a couple more examples if you'd like.
Please, please.
Well, there's one I just found just yesterday, and this was a notebook because I'm going to be working on another book. Um, and I'll share with you and your audience because I would like to collect stories because I know I'm not the only one. And I just set up an email after our little talk there yesterday, called I wish he would have just hit me at gmail.com, so people can send me their stories there because I know I'm not the only one. I've heard that a lot. So that's the story I'm working on. And I'm going to do it at pulling out from my journals what I was going through at those times. So taking it right from that time, and then I'm going to do a reflection piece on it in my book about how I can see that now, either how I talk myself into it. I'm still working that out, but I'd like to blend other stories in there to show I'm not the only one and to let others know that we're never alone, no matter what we're growing through. We are never alone. We're never alone. So this was
Before you go there, what I will do, Christiana, is I will make sure that that email address is in the description. So people don't have to write it down. It will be in the description. You
yeah,
can write it down, by the way, but it will be in the description on my YouTube channel. And when I put it up on my Facebook page, the Old Girl Spiritual Stuff, I will make sure that that email address is there for anybody who wants to contact you about putting their story in,
right.
because that's
And
important.
it's the first time I shared it. I literally just made the email yesterday
Beautiful.
after we had our little talk about this interview today. So this is a little poem that I wrote in there because there's still blank pages, and sometimes I'll pick up the old journals like this one I showed you was like from 22. But this poem came from more around this time once I moved in here. And it says, some days I feel like I can't make it. Other days I feel like I can. Every day I am making it. I know that I am. I've tried so hard to get by, tried so hard not to cry, but the tears keep falling from my eyes, and my sadness I cannot hide no matter how hard I try. Some days I feel like I can't make it. Other days I feel like I can. Every day I am making it. I know I am. I'll cry for a while, then something will happen to make me smile. A happy memory or something. That's I didn't finish that. But I had completely forgotten about that poem. But it's like, wow, wow. Like I wrote that.
Yeah.
It's in my notebook. I know I wrote that.
Well, you have to have written it because it's in your notebook, as you said.
Yes,
So
yes.
is this your way of is this your poetry a way of your healing? Is this helping your healing?
Yes. Yeah, it really does. And especially now that I've been sharing it too, because
Wow.
that's the whole point of putting it needs to it's getting it out of me, but then it helps others too. It's
Yeah.
like that the artist, painting a picture, it means something to the artist that's writing it and doing it, but it'll also mean something to somebody else. Like
Yeah.
you said, like you could relate to the poem, even though your divorce wasn't through narcissism or anything like
Yeah.
that, but there was still things that you could relate to
Yeah.
in there. So it doesn't have to be the exact things. Like nobody's gone through the exact
No.
things. We're all
Yeah.
different human beings and we all
Yeah.
have our own experiences of it. Even if we're raised by the same parents, we have different parents when growing up because, age, your age, when you're born in there, the
Yeah.
birth sequence and stuff like
Yeah.
that determines how you're treated. So
Yeah.
it
I,
all
I
depends.
I belong to a support group in Melbourne, and we do Zoom now because we're integrated into the 21st century.
Yeah.
And I've been part of this group now for around 10 years, 8 to 10 years. And it's all about the only people that are part of this group are mothers who've had their babies taken away from them due to forced adoption. And that's the group that I
Mhm.
belong to, ARMS. Now, we've all had the same experience. We
Yes.
all gave birth and did not have our babies to take home. But every story is different, even though the core of it is the same.
Yes.
And that
Yeah.
is everywhere in life.
Yeah.
everywhere in
Yeah.
life. But the core, and I remember a different course that I went to on a far different subject. And we were told that even though our experience was different and a lot less than other people's experiences, and not as dramatic or as horrendous or whatever. And mine, in this circumstances, mine was quite joyful, even though it was a hard subject. Never discount your story as being less than, or not worthy of being heard, or it's not as important
Absolutely.
as, or it's not as harsh as. However you experience it in your harshness is your truth, and you should never
Yeah.
compare your pain as less than somebody else's because the external circumstances doesn't look as great. But your
Yes.
pain, even if it's arguments only, they can be horrific
Mhm.
to you while you're in the middle of it. So never
Absolutely.
ever say that, oh, mine wasn't as important as their experience. Their experience was much worse than mine. And that way you're discounting your truth and your experiences that you're growing out of. And I
Yes,
think that's
absolutely.
part of what I got from your poetry
Yes, yes. Because
is that,
it's damaging. Like it's just like with abuse. A lot of us compare it, and that's where that title comes from. I wish he would have just hit me, is because there's many that say that, and even the ones that have gotten hit, and it's like that doesn't matter. The bruises go away. The cuts and stuff. You might have a little scar, but it's those emotional things, those things that
yeah,
go on inside, that causes damage that lasts far beyond any kind of physical wounding. So it's those things, and then we start feeling ashamed of that. I went to women's groups for abuse and stuff like that, and started feeling like out of place because my head wasn't slammed in the barbecue, or
yeah,
some very horrific things that happened. And even those ladies said, no, I'd take that over him, the name calling, and the way he made me feel less than and worthless and all that kind of things. Those things stick with you, and the gaslighting, or
yeah.
the
And I think
or the
that
reaction they get out of
we
you.
we we as human beings, there is a saying, I complained about having no shoes until I saw a man with no feet.
Yeah.
And and so we're taught to little this is a made up word, but I can still spell it. Little eyes. I've made that up.
Yes, it's a good one.
Little Lize, little eyes. We little eyes our own experience as not as
Yeah.
important or as painful, hurtful as somebody else's grander experience. But I have a friend who has a high level of pain. She can experience great pain and it'll be minimal to her, where to me, you could call me a Suki because the smallest pain is huge to me. But it doesn't matter. It's how our metabolism is created,
Mhm.
and it's how we're programmed, and how we're affected on the emotional deep level can be
Yeah.
just as hurtful. I just want you to know out there that no matter the degree you are heard, and your story, whether it's doesn't seem grand and significant, is incredibly significant. It's significant to us, and it's
Yeah.
significant to your growth, and the way that our mind then becomes that we don't see the truth and we can't accept the vision, so we've got to downplay ourselves. So we see you. Your experience is just as important and just as validated as the person who has the obvious depth to their pain. I just wanted to add that. And
Absolutely.
your poetry and your writings expand on that, I believe.
Yeah, yeah, they do. Well, that makes me think of that next one, the soul writing that I just done, one of my most recent ones. Um, just a couple of weeks ago. I'm taking a Courage to Create writing program, Lori Bowden. It's her inaugural program. So it's the very first, I'm part of the very first one. So, and it's so far, it's just amazing. Lori Bowden is just an amazing, beautiful being as well. She led us through this dream meditation. She had the dream of this meditation, and then she led us through it. And she calls these soul writing exercises. So she leads us through the meditation, and then she says, okay, now just pick up the pen and don't think, just write. So this was what came out of me, just writing without thinking. Says, I am you, you are me. Together always we will be. It's time to let your light shine. Don't dim it down. No, not this time. You have all within you, everything you need. You lack nothing. This is more than just a dream. You create your own reality. I am you and you are me. Together always we will be. I know it's been rough and you are so tough. Now it's time to let go of all that old stuff. Time for you to soar, to dive deep to the ocean floor. Know that you don't have to worry anymore. There's so much for you to explore. I am you and you are me. Together always we will be. Open your eyes and you will see you are creating your reality.
Wow.
Thank
Wow.
you.
Wow.
Thank you. That's what I felt too when I went, whoa,
Yeah.
whoa, thank you, whoa.
Yeah.
But it's that reality, but what we think, right? I was raised to, like, if you can't change what's happening around you, you can always change your mind. So
Yeah.
I've worked on those things on the inside there too, right?
Yeah.
And we can change the way we look at things, when we change the way we look at things, the things we look at change. I think that was a
Yeah.
Wayne
Yeah, it
Dyer.
could be. It
Um,
sounds like one of
yeah,
his. There is
yeah,
another one that goes, it's never, uh, gosh, there's that brain fart that I've got, ladies and gentlemen, when the brain goes, we're not going there. Um, it's, I'll come back to that. It's something, but it's
yeah,
only, what happens is how you see it happening becomes your
yes,
truth of what happens, which is what
yes,
Wayne Dyer is saying. And also that we have the ability with practice, with
yes,
lots of practice, to be able
yes.
to change that monkey mind into something that works in our favor.
Yeah, yeah. I like to say practice progressively perfects.
Wow, that's such a truth. That is so
Yeah,
true. We
yes.
never, we
Sometimes,
never see, we never see
hmm?
things as they are, only as we are.
Yes,
That's what it
yes.
is. We never see things as they are, only as we are.
Yeah.
Um, I had an experience yesterday that could have blown out of proportion, absolutely blown out of proportion, had I have not waited to see whether what I saw was correct or not. And it
Mm.
turned out I was wrong in the way I saw it.
Okay.
And
Yes,
what it
yes.
was an autocorrect. It was
That's
somebody
it.
sending me a text and it was
Technology.
an autocorrect, and it came to me as this, and I erupted. It's like, I'm an Aries, 30 over 3. I'm Bolshe. I'm a female. I'm an Australian. I'm an 8-day born. I'm all those wonderful fiery things. And so when I erupt, I erupt. But it doesn't last for long. 5 minutes, it's usually down into cinders. But it was an autocorrect that came through as the wrong information. And
Yeah.
and I it was Saturday morning because I said to myself, I will wait 24 hours before I respond to this. I will settle
Mhm.
down and I will gather more information and then I will respond. And I didn't have to because I was wrong.
Right. Sometimes that's what it takes, right? Taking that time, feel that reaction, but wait till you're right through that reaction before you respond. Yeah. And those texts, like we see things, we don't see things the way they are. We see them the way we are. We
Yeah.
don't read text. in the tone they were sent. We read text in the tone that we feel, in the mood that we feel.
Yeah.
So
These
if we're
were
in a
exactly. But these were two opposite words. Like, how did you get this word out of that word? You know?
read your text before you hit send. No.
And it's funny because sometimes I text my son and whose name shall not ever be known because he doesn't want it known publicly or on social media. But I say, let's say, good morning, son. I use his name. Good morning, son. When are we getting together? And he'll text me back and he'll say, who is Wendy? I don't know Wendy because it's gone over as Wendy, not when. It's Wendy. Are we getting together? Who is Wendy? check your text, mum, before you send it. But that happens probably once a month. That autocorrect goes out. So
Yes. Yeah.
thank you so much for sharing um, your beautiful story. You really
Thank you.
are incredibly exquisite. Diana is writing another book, and unbeknownst to her, she's got another three after this. And out there, you will be able to, because as you were talking about that book and getting my mind went, but what if somebody's listening to this in 4 years' time and they have a story? And that was the question I posed to myself while we were interacting. And the message is this is not the only book you're writing. So
Yeah.
if you want to write to Christiana about a story you'd like her to know about, it's not going to be finished for her in 1 year. This is an
No, no.
ongoing thing for her. And so there's at least 4 books for her. So feel free
Yeah.
to contact
That
her.
could definitely be a series. Yeah, because there's
Yeah,
lots of that story. It's not like I said, I'm not the only one. And I was told in I was Deborah Silverman. She's an astrologist and a psychotherapist. So she blends them both. And I gifted myself with a call, a half-hour session with her. And in that, she said that I was going to be doing some sort of movement like the Me Too. So it might be this, that,
maybe this.
it, that those invisible, those not so obvious abuses, where
Yeah.
you'd think, I wish they would have just hit me. And it doesn't have to be a he. I've had,
Ex-
sometimes I wish my
ex-
mother would have just hit me too. Just,
and sometimes it's a child, can I tell you, because there's a lot of elderly abuse out there. A lot of elder. In fact, where
yeah,
I live in beautiful Gisborne in New Zealand, we've got a couple of like shops, retail stores, if you like, that look like that. And one is Citizens Advice, where I can go and volunteer my time to help somebody or, in that regard. But next to it is its own office for elderly abuse that I didn't even
yeah.
know existed until I saw it.
Yes, yes,
If
yes.
you
The,
would
the days
like,
of respect for elders is growing very thin.
everybody's under such stress and fear and scaredness, and it's perpetuated through the media, it's perpetuated through the energies that we live
Mhm.
in, and so many people who feel lost buy into this energy, and then viciousness comes out of it often. Have
Can
you
I
got
share
another
one
one?
more?
Please,
Yes.
please.
Just as we're ending up here, this is 21 and it's common ground.
Right.
Common ground. This is the last poem in the book, but this is what I'd like to leave everyone with. Common ground. You've got common ground with everyone you're around. Just look down. We walk the same earth, breathe the same air since birth, living our lives, trying to find our purpose and worth. We may not walk the same path. We're not the first, we won't be the last. We all share the present, future, and the past. So unique, yet all the same. We are all wonderfully, divinely made, all on a human journey, no matter what your title or status be. You are just as human as me and everybody. We all are on common ground with everyone that we're around. Look down. We walk the same earth, breathing the same air since birth, living our lives, hoping to find our purpose and all that we're worth. Who's to say which should go and who should stay? Who gave anyone the right to take our free will away? Did they take it or did we give it? Feeling like we really don't have a say. We destroy ourselves when we continue this way. Let's take a stand on our common ground today. You and me. We don't have to agree, but we need to accept that we all have a right just to be. Humans did not create, nor do we own this earth. We are all helpless at birth. No one human has more worth than any other. No man, woman, child, father, sister, or brother. Well, except maybe our mother. I put a winky face in there. No human would be here without her. We all belong here. That's the truth, my dear. We all got common ground. Look down. Our Mother Earth keeps spinning round. Deep inside are treasures to be found. The treasures that no one can take. The love and the life we choose to make.
That is just gold. That's gold. Just there. That encompasses everything so very beautifully. I will put up links for you to contact Christianna, to follow her, and to follow her talkative. I just love that talkative. Christianna, thank you so much. That was an absolute pleasure to have you here today. And it's always, before I do an interview, I often go into my own humanness and say, how's it going to be today?
Mm-hmm.
And every time it's always amazing. And today is amazing. So thank you. Thank you for sharing your journey. Thank you for sharing your soul. Because there's somebody out there, if not one, then 100,000 persons that will fully relate to your work. Contact Christianna. Get to know her. Get to know her work and see where it fits within your world. Until next time, bye-bye. And don't forget to breathe.